Well, good morning or good afternoon to everyone, whatever the case may be. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar, Making the Transition from StreetSmarts. This is a special webinar here at Dexter and Chaney today. I am Andy Holtman with Dexter and Chaney, and in just a few moments, I'll turn things over to my colleague, Kurt Westberg. But as folks are still kind of trickling in this morning, I just want to take a few seconds to go over some housekeeping tips in case this is your first time using the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar interface. If this is your first time, you might notice the navigation bar on the right-hand side of your screen there. This is how you interact with us during the webinar today. You might see a little orange arrow there where you can expand or hide that navigation bar to your liking. You'll also see a number of different options where you can adjust the settings, interact with us, and more. One thing you might notice is that you are muted today if you are an attendee. The reason that we do mute folks is that we have a good number of people on the webinar today, and we just want to make sure there's no background noise, everybody can hear the presentation, etc. But we do have areas, like I said, there's dialog boxes there where you can ask a question, you can raise your hand at any point during the webinar, and we do encourage that. So if you have a question at any point, type that in and we'll do our very best to answer those. If we can't answer it during the webinar, we'll certainly do our very best to answer any questions at the end of the webinar today. We are also recording the webinar today, and we'll follow up with folks in the next day or so and see if you would like a copy of the recording or if we can answer any additional questions for you as well. Just a little bit about Dexter and Chaney for anybody that might not know. We are a construction software company specializing in business management and operations solutions. We began way back in 1981, one of the first companies to bring accounting to the construction industry. We've been around for more than 35 years now. Today, we're the leader in cloud-based construction ERP software. Our Spectrum Construction software is a full suite accounting, business management, project management, equipment management, and service management solution. And you can access it and get work done wherever work takes you. We also partner with a number of industry associations and organizations to bring a host of educational resources to the industry, including things like webinars like you're on today, white papers, videos, blogs, and a whole lot more. You can find these by visiting our website at www.dexterchaney.com. Now, with the housekeeping out of the way, I'll turn things over here to Kurt Westberg. Kurt is a vice president here at Dexter and Chaney, and is one of our resident heavy highway and aggregate experts. He's worked with hundreds of new and existing clients over the years, and has a strong background with understanding the needs and desires of the heavy highway contingent when it comes to software. Recently, Kurt's been working directly with a number of former StreetSmarts customers in helping them transition to new software packages. And today he's going to kind of walk you through an overview of that process and show you how Spectrum might be able to help you address your needs as well. So Kurt, let me turn things over to you, sir, and take the reins from here.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us. You have a question box there. If any questions come up, please feel free to type them in, and we'll try to get them answered either during the webinar or shortly thereafter. Today, I'm going to try to hit on five major pieces of our software. One of them is just the overall how do you get around and management of a modern software packages. We are 100% browser-based, which means that on any device that runs Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, or Safari, so any iPad or Mac or iPhone, you can access the software just like you're sitting in the office. There's no Citrix or terminal server or any of that in-between software to try to make it into a true cloud-based software. It is 100% browser-based and can live on our servers in our hosted environment or your own servers. There's a ton of different ways to offer it, but the key is that it cuts down dramatically on your infrastructure spend, your IT spend in your company, because you don't have to worry about what workstations are running it and what the speed of those are, and it greatly facilitates the ability to access from outside the company. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about job cost, and just kind of the big picture on how we think about jobs, and then we're going to talk about project management for a little while in terms of documents and how that works. We'll talk about equipment, and we'll talk about materials if I have time. So Andy's going to try to keep me on task. I tend to go on and on and on. So,
I'll do my very best to rein Kurt in when he gets a little bit long in the tooth.
The other thing too is this isn't designed to in any way to be a decision-making event for you guys. we would love to spend more time on any of these topics or anything else you'd care to look at in the software. Just let us know, and we'll hook you up. Like Andy mentioned, we have been talking to an awful lot of StreetSmarts customers, and many of them have decided to make the jump from StreetSmarts to Spectrum rather than to go just the straight Viewpoint route. So, you know, I'm happy to discuss the reasons for those, but most of them revolve around the more modern nature of our software and the ease of use of our software, which are two significantly different things than the other guys you're looking at. In order to show that, you should see the screen. It has a number of boxes on it. We call these apps. So when you log into the software, you put in a password and an ID from a web browser, and this is what you see, right? And this is specific to every user in the company. So everybody can have their own dashboard, right, with their own apps that show the stuff that they're interested in. And in this case, this is a kind of an example of what a project manager's dashboard might look like. And anything that has the word "my" in it means it's specific to information or jobs that he or she is a contact on, right? They have an interest in those jobs. So you can have all of the jobs, you can have one job, just depending on what your job functions are. You also notice on the right-hand side of the screen things like customer aging totals and vendor aging totals. Accountants will have their own whole set of apps that they work on. There's over 100 apps that come out of the box with Spectrum, and you can easily create your own. You can easily create your own apps and put them on the dashboard here.
So, Kurt, what you're saying is I could have information relevant exactly to me and my jobs and
Yep.
one of the things that I'm looking at.
Absolutely. The stuff that keeps you awake at night, when you wake up in the middle of the night, whatever your function in the company, and you go, oh, I wonder what's going on with that, then that's the thinking behind this dashboard. Is when you come in and log in the morning, it shows you the places in the data that are in the company where there's a problem coming down the pipe, or just to set your mind at ease. So if there's, you know, it just is a way to really drive behavior inside the company and make sure that the people who are doing their jobs in the company are focused on the 5 or 6 or 10 things that are critically important for them, right? The other key about this dashboard is that it doesn't count as a concurrent user against your license. So you can give anybody in the company this. Everybody in the company will have a login for the software, for the dashboard. So you can present data to anybody, even if they don't have the ability to get down into the software, they can see what the things are that they need to look at to do their job.
Okay.
The other thing about it is it's different. Most dashboards in companies are Crystal reports or some third-party dashboard tool that are sitting on a static data set. And when you notice something like my unapproved invoices, in most companies you need to go somewhere else to do that, right? It looks something like this, which is if I was looking at this, oh, I've got an invoice to approve, go to you know, the module list, right? And then remember where invoice approval sits, and click all the way down in there, and then it'll show me what I need to do.
Yeah, you 7, 8 clicks.
Yeah, 7 or 8 clicks. In Spectrum, these are all interactive. All I need to do to get to invoice approval, which is the invoices that have come in the door, been routed for approval, scanned, routed for approval to me, right? The same thing that the paper that you've got on your desk right now, or you may have implemented a third-party way to do this using Dropbox or something like that. But in Spectrum, it's all integrated in, and when I click on that invoice, it takes me right into the invoice itself, and I can see the actual. Well, you can have multiple documents associated with this, but I can see the actual picture of the invoice and any comments that have been made by previous matter. So just that simple. And you notice also that it just opened another tab. I didn't have to go anywhere, do anything. One click, and I'm looking at the information that I need to look at to do my job. And that's true throughout the software. So when we come in here into the dashboard and I want to jump down into a job, all I do is click on the My Jobs here, right? So a few of just a little bit about the apps you're looking at here. This is the list of jobs that I'm a project manager on, right? I've got 4 jobs that I'm responsible for. In those 4 jobs, these are documents that are outstanding, right? RFI submittals, transmittals, daily logs, change request approval, anything that I need to look at that you know that has a due date on it. I can see the overview here in this My Project Log status. So I've got 27 overdue documents and 114 open documents on this job. My responses to review here, these are documents that I've sent out to somebody else in the project universe, right? An architect, a state engineer, anybody that needs to look at a document, and then they've responded to that. So Spectrum interacts with Outlook and Gmail, other email systems, and it knows when you send an email out and you get a response to it. That's what this dashboard is. These are the responses to the emails that I've sent out that are back in the system that I haven't looked at yet. So there's numerous, real helpful ways to use this dashboard. When I click on a job here, the first thing it shows me is an overview of this project. So what I'm looking at here is this job, kind of big picture data on this project. The top box is my WIP. Where am I on this project right now? And it's kind of a train wreck. My demo, you'll have to bear with my demo data just a little bit. I tend to do a lot of billings, or a lot of costs and not a lot of revenue transactions when I'm doing demos, which has resulted in my job being underbilled by about $844,000. However,
that is that you're a bad project manager.
Right. If you saw this, it would be a problem, right? But what I'm looking at here then is, okay, I'm predicting that I'm going to finish at a 14.8% gross profit margin. I've got an outstanding committed costs, be either subcontract or materials that I've said I'm going to ship 1,000 tons of aggregate to this job, and only 800 tons have gone. So that 200 remaining tons will show as a commitment or anything on purchase orders. So I've got my earned revenue, which is my percent complete here, times my contract amount gives me my earned revenue. And then down below, I get my percent complete from my cost, job to date costs, over my forecasted cost at completion. And Spectrum does have a very sophisticated forecasting tool built into it, so that you don't need to pull data out into Excel, do your forecast, and then type it back into Spectrum.
So it's all right there formulated for you.
It's all right there in the system for you. The job to date number here, because I'm telling it to look at the current AP invoices in progress and the current payroll period in progress, means that this number includes the current labor period, all of the equipment costs that have been entered through payroll or imported from a time card entry system, and the quantities that I've put in place. So really, this number right here is the most up-to-date number that you've got in the software. You don't have to wait to see your job cost numbers until payroll has been processed downstream.
So I was going to say, you're seeing all this data in real time, or as close to real time as you can get.
Yeah, StreetSmarts has some of these things built into it. Some people use them, some people don't. StreetSmarts, by the way, is a very good software package. It's very unfortunate that you're being forced to switch. That's our opinion here. We realize we wouldn't be talking to you if you could continue to use StreetSmarts. I mean, it has some issues like any software, but overall, it's a very functional package. It's not like you're getting off of something that doesn't work. So,
Kurt, it looks like we do have a question here. Do you want to take the top and take this real quick?
Yeah, the background database is SQL, right? It's based on Microsoft SQL. The most recent version of SQL is out. I mean, we keep up to date on that. We see our job is to be your technology partner as well as your software partner, to keep you out of trying to predict what's coming down the pipe technology-wise. So we operate on all the most recent Microsoft releases. The basis of the software is primarily JavaScript, and so it's a JavaScript front end. It's a 4GL called Pro4 backend, which is a very good database in terms of development-wise, and the data itself lives in Microsoft SQL.
Okay.
So we've been talking about the numbers on the screen. The third box down here is my contract information. What I signed originally, what my executed changes are, which are signed off on by the owner. Approved changes are we promise we'll pay you, but don't bill us yet. And then proposed changes are stuff coming down the pipe that you may or may not get, or you're not confident enough yet in to include in your revenue. So all of these things are available on one screen, and you can drill into anything that has a blue link or a little arrow. So if I wanted to see all those executed changes, right, here's all the change orders that have been executed on my project. If I drill If I drill on them, I can get down in and I can see, oh, I got to drill on it, sorry. I can get down in and I can see the actual change order itself and get in and see the actual signed copy of the change order that was given back to me by the owner. So again, document imaging is something that we've had integrated into our product. It's our product and it's been out there since 1999. I mean, that's when we released document imaging. So we've been working on it aggressively for 16 years, 17, 18 years. It does character recognize every piece of text that you've got in here. So if you come down 2 years from now and you type into the document imaging search the word security badge, it will find this particular document. So it's like having a Google search across every document that you put into the system, whether that be Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, PDFs, TIFFs, anything that has text on it, the system will OCR recognize that text and index it in the background so that you can find that stuff later.
That should be the filing cabinet and paper.
Yeah, and it's not the, yes, absolutely. And it's not the only way that you can find stuff, of course, because everything's always linked to the transactions themselves or to the master files. So anyway, we've been looking at this particular screen. I'm back at this. Now, if I want to see how this $1,119,000 is made up on this project, I can click on the cost and hours here, or I can use the info bar over here on the left. And what this info bar is really the prime innovation that we've put out, that we have, I think, over other systems, which is a way that that people who are in operations primarily and don't use the software every day, one of the things that always kept them out of the accounting systems was the fact that they had to do that menu hopping, like I showed you a minute ago on the invoice approval, right? They had to go down and remember that what I want to see lives here and it's called this, and it was 5 or 6 clicks to get there, and they had to do that every single time.
Well, it's not just the menu system. Sometimes you may be using different pieces of software altogether. You may be using project management software and then accounting software and do double entry. So what this info bar does is, as soon as I clicked on the job on the dashboard, this HS1912, all of the information over here is specific to this project, and it's the stuff that I have the security to see. So if I don't have any security to get into job setup functions, then this properties won't even show up on my info bar, right? If I look down under costs here and these are all different ways that I can look at the costs broken down on this system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop into this cost activity screen, which is essentially the same as clicking on the blue link here. So when I do that, it takes me right down into that menu choice in the software. I don't have to remember where it is. I don't have to leave the screen. I'm right here looking at how my costs are broken down on this project. And if you look across the top here, in this particular grid view, I've got job to date costs, my open commitments, my projected cost at completion, unposted AP invoice and unposted payroll costs. Those are the stuff that's in progress, my week to date costs and my month to date costs, right? For each phase on the job. So I think StreetSmarts calls them tasks. Anything you see over here is the same thing as a task. We call them phases. You can rename any wording that you see in here. So if you want to call them tasks, you can go in to the lexicon function in Spectrum and say, every time you see the word phase, make it task, and then it'll change it everywhere in the software. So we're looking at our totals for saw cut asphalt, for example, right? The $23,158 in actual costs, 0 open commitments. My projection is at $34,163. Now, one of the things about this grid, if I wanted to add a column to this, like my estimated cost, right, which I don't have on here, my current estimate, I can just come back into the little notepad down here on the bottom and click on estimated cost, and now that will add this to my grid. So now, just that easily, I've created a new view. Right now, this is a new inquiry that's showing me my estimated cost as well. And what the saved selections are over here is the ability to save these, right? So I can create the views that I want to see in here. And if you look at the list of items that are in this, the selected columns to display, there's over 80 different columns that you can choose to put on here. So if you notice, we've got hours, we've got costs, we've got quantities.
I can get my current unit cost. I can get my current productivity. I can compare that to my projections and my estimates. I can see my week-to-date numbers on all of these. If you come down lower, I can see my week-to-date, unit cost, my week-to-date productivity. I can see, all of the information that you're looking at on this screen is available, on this list is available to include in my reports. So anyway, that's how these reports get built. Then I click Save Current, and I can save it as just for me, or if I have the security, I can push this view out to everybody in the company for them to look at.
So if different people want to see the data in different ways or different formats, you could create different views for each one of those.
That's exactly how it works, right? Or you can control it so all my project managers have these 6 views to look at jobs, and that's what they get. So I can click down on if I put the little plus here, you notice how it says phase and cost type up here. This is the grouping section. Right now I'm looking at phase, and I'm looking at the cost types underneath it, right? So underneath labor, if I come in here and drill down, I can get from this screen, I can get clear back to every employee who's worked on this particular phase of the job, and I can go further and further down into the details. So now I'm looking at the time card for Everett Berger for this particular pay period and the job he worked on, or jobs, and I can get back down into the actual physical picture of the time card if we're scanning that in. And I probably won't go into it on the screen today, but we do have multiple ways to get time cards into the system. We've got a handheld app that works on phones and iPads. We've got a system that's a grid-based entry that looks very similar to Smart Tracks or whatever the
Smartsheet.
Smart Tracks, which are
Smart Tracks is
Cheetah is a StreetSmarts time card entry system. We've looked at that. We've got the ability to link with Heavy Job if you're using HCSS or any other outside system to do time card entry. So we're very agnostic when it comes to time card entry. The key is if you've got something that's working, let's not change it up, right? So anyway, I drilled clear down into the actual physical time card itself if you're storing them. I can do the same for materials, and I can do the same for equipment. I can see every piece of equipment that I've used on this phase of the job, when I used it, and how many hours were charged. If I scroll across here, I can see the description of the piece of equipment. So we primarily used an excavator and a backhoe on this particular phase.
Well, Kurt, one of the things I'm noticing too is that this cost activity this grid format is very much like a spreadsheet as well.
It is. It's very similar to what they're used to looking at. The key to it is it's easy to use. If I want to resort this, say I'm looking at the tasks, but I want to look at it. I want to look at my totals for labor, material, others. All I did was I grabbed the cost type field and drug it into here. I noticed that there's a question out there now about can you import time cards out of a custom software from a text file? Absolutely. So we'll work with you. I don't know how much control you have over the output on the text file. There's 2 ways to do that. If you can produce a file out of that system in a specific format, we've got an import function. We also can dump it into a spreadsheet and sync it back into the software from there. Yeah. Spectrum, because it's a web-based system, has a full API, a full set of web services that we've built out. And we've written an add-in for Excel that allows Excel to act as a data entry tool for Spectrum without having to do any exports out of Excel and imports into our product, into Spectrum. So you can hook it up so that you just put stuff in Excel and hit a sync button and it sticks it back into Spectrum automatically for you without having to do any of that. So there's many options in terms of how to get those things integrated.
And you can export this data out into Excel.
Absolutely. So that's a great point. I can print it. All the buttons down here are live. I can print it, or if I want to spit this out into Excel, let's say I want to see all of my labor, the phases that I've got labor on. I just click the Excel button there, and it goes out and it will download this file and open it right into Excel for me so that I'm looking at all the data that I just had on that screen in Excel just that easily.
And it's still formatted the same way you have
formatted, but they're all in individual fields, so you can actually do something with the data. It's not just a picture in cell 1A. The other thing is while we're out here, so we can talk about the integration with Excel in more detail if you want, if the people want to hook up with us. So I can print it, I can spit it out to Excel. I've also got many other ways to look at cost breakdowns on this particular job. But if I want to see all the subs, for example, that I'm using, I click on the subcontracts here, and this will show me every subcontractor that I'm using on this particular project and where I'm at with this particular subcontract to date. Notice the info bar over here changed when I did this. So as soon as I chose the subcontract cost section, it added the vendor and the that particular subcontract to the info bar. It's a very interactive system. So it assumes now, because I'm looking at subcontracts, that I may have a question about the sub as a whole or the particular subcontract that I'm on. So it adds those to the info bar. And if I want to come in and look at the summary for this particular subcontract, I'm in one click, I'm in looking at where we're at on this subcontract to date, all the unposted transactions, what we've paid, all of that kind of stuff. And I can drill into any of, like we looked at a second ago when we drilled down into further and further detail. So the thinking is that really when the project managers get used to Spectrum, they're never having to do this, which is go back to the menu, remember where in the software they want to look at something, and then drill down from that particular feature.
But we still have the menu there.
If
that's absolutely what you want to do. If
Yeah.
it's more comfortable to you, you can still use the menu.
Yeah, some accounting people are so used to it that they like to do it that way. I haven't met a project manager yet that wants to use the menuing system like
Probably
that.
not.
There probably is somebody out there somewhere. We also have very strong pay when paid functionality built into Spectrum. So if that's how you run your projects, where you don't pay your subs until you get paid on the project, I can always come into the costs on the job section here, and this job payables will show me every invoice on the job and where it's at in status, right? These invoices are waiting for payment, waiting for a payment to come in from the owner, and the released invoices have come in here, and I can always click on them and see the backup documentation behind any of these invoices. So in one place, I've got every AP transaction that's hit this project. I can see all of the material tickets that have come in on this job by clicking on the materials link here, which will show me, and again, you can group these and sort them and do that kind of thing, but what we're looking at here is every delivery ticket from this particular project, that's come across my scales or through purchase order. So, the thinking here is that the project managers never have to go anywhere else to do this in the software other than use this info bar on the side. So that's a quick overview of job costs. If I wanted to look at my document management on this job, I'd go into documents here, and I'm going to drill down onto the project log. And what this project log is really every document, type of document, and underneath these that we scan. So this again is a grid, right? Just like we looked at in the costs, I can see I'm looking at all my open documents on this job, and these categories are user defined, but these are the categories that we have open documents in on this job. I can come right in here and I can look at every photo that's been stored against this project, right? And you can set up the system so that when you come into Spectrum, or when you set the job up, you can set a folder in people's Outlook boxes that allows you to drag drag emails or drag emails from your inbox into that folder, and it will automatically log them in the project log here in Spectrum. So this correspondence tab has both inbound and outbound emails, and it's everything that's been logged from Outlook or that's gone out of the system. And again, like I said earlier, the auto responses are in there. You can also link these documents together. So if I've got a change request up here, which is another big part of the system, the change request management system, if I wanted to link this correspondence item, right, to this particular change request, all I need to do is drag and drop up there, and now those two documents are linked together, and they will be forever. So 3 years from now, when I'm looking to get paid on change request number 1016, and I can go clear back to the email that came in telling me to go ahead and do the work, right? That there's no fumbling around through everybody's inbox in the organization and trying to find specific items that that may or may not pertain to history. Everything's linked together and done correctly.
So with this powerful document imaging and document tracking capability we have, I see a lot of benefit for things like job compliance and job compliance documentation. Can you talk a little bit about?
Absolutely. So that we've got a full, you notice over here on the info bar, we've got a full compliance tracking. And what this compliance tracking allows me to do is set up any type of items that need to, unfortunately, we don't have anything set up on this job, but show any documents that we need from the owner, anything that we want to track that we have signed will show up in this compliance tracking. And it talks to dashboard items. So if it's somebody's job to make sure that we've gotten the owner liens returned, or we've gotten signatures back, or the subcontracts have all turned in their insurance certificates all of that stuff is in one place for our project managers or the compliance people to look at.
Will it let you know if one of your subs, their insurance certificate is expiring soon, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can set that up by vendor or by subcontract. So when you set a subcontract up in Spectrum, and by the way, when you're setting these jobs that we're looking at up, you don't. It's all we can import from whatever estimating package you're using, including Excel. So you don't have to manually set up every project in Spectrum. If you're using Heavy Bid, for example, or you're using Bid to Win, or you're using, even a spreadsheet where you're doing your estimating, we'll work with you to be able to import that file that comes out of that estimating system, and then it sets the job up, it sets all the subcontracts up, and it sets the revenue side of the job up, which we're going to jump into now, which is the schedule of values, right? So when we come into this project, I can look at the schedule of values items on this particular job, and all of these were put in here from an import from an estimating package. If I wanted, when I'm ready to do a billing, right, I just come down into the draw request here, and that pulls up a front end screen, basically a worksheet for me to enter my progress, quantities or dollars on the job that I'm applying for owner payment on. And then it can be sent out as a pencil copy. You can get in an argument with the estimator or whatever, and then fix it and then update it to revenue. Or you can post it immediately, reverse all those back out, does all the audit trail work for you, and it allows you to keep your revenue in line, your draw requests in line with revenue. So we've got the revenue side covered, we've got the cost side covered, and what else can we talk about on the job cost side? We've got numerous reports. All of these reports are hard code. We've got 1,200 reports that come out of Spectrum, or right around there, that come out of Spectrum from out of the box, right? They're all pre-formatted. I can come into the contract, or I can come into the cost analysis report here, and what this will show me as an example of the reports is that it knows that because of the way the system is structured, it knows that I was looking at job HS 1912, so it's assuming that I want to run the cost analysis for HS 1912, this particular job. However, I can come in here and say, you know what, I also want to run the cost analysis report for HS 1910, and all jobs that start with GS, right? So what this will do is run those particular jobs on it as well. These are all wildcard searchable fields on the start screens for our report writer. And again, when I preview this, it goes out and it will create this report, and it runs it it's a crystal report. So if you don't like the way these reports look, you can modify them relatively easily in crystal reports, and include those back on the menu in Spectrum so that they become your reports. I can email this out of here. I can download it and save it on my drive. Archive allows me to just cold store it in one step. If I want to save this report to the server, all I need to do is hit that archive button, and it will store it in a filing system that we've got pre-set up on there, so you can always go back and find it later. Project managers don't use that quite as much as accountants do, but it's a good thing for accounting also. We also have a function in job cost called the plan room, and what the plan room is a document repository, plans, specs, any submittals, or anything that if you want to put all your plans online and invite subs to bid on your project. So it's an invitation to bid system. It's a way to manage pre-quals, and it's all one set of documents that you're inviting people to come in and look at. So the plan room is really similar to smartbid.net and some of the other, a lot of companies are trying to do it with SharePoint or Dropbox or these kind of things, but it's already all built out with the security, and so you can manage it very effectively in terms of who gets to come in and see what, and it's all free to play for all of the project universe. The only licenses you pay for are the people who are going to be setting projects up in Spectrum. So we've got a really full project management suite available to our customers.
I imagine that enhances things like collaboration, obviously getting everybody in and seeing all the same data at the same time.
Yep, absolutely. So you're all working off the same documents. It does all of the revision tracking and all that kind of stuff. So you make sure that your subs are always looking at the set of plans that are current. Everybody's always working off the most current documents in the software. We can talk a lot more about that one too if you're interested in that functionality, but it is integrated fully into Spectrum, and you don't need to have the jobs set up in the accounting system to use that project when you're bidding them. You can set them up, once you get awarded a job, then it's set up in Spectrum, and then those two systems talk to each other. So you've got the full history going clear back to the bidding process from your jobs. I'm going to jump to equipment real quick, and we're running out of time, and I'm like I said, I can go on and on about stuff. I'm going to jump into pull up the equipment, a piece of equipment here in Spectrum, right? So if I come into a piece of equipment, what we're looking at here is the master file for a piece of equipment on the project. You notice you can keep a picture, and then the info bar now is all about equipment. It's not about jobs anymore, right? So I can see, where the default information for the piece of equipment. If you look down through the properties list here, these are all the different things we track about equipment. So attachments are one piece of equipment attached to another piece of equipment. They act as a unit, and they charge out as a unit in payroll if you want them to. Attributes are descriptors. Charge rates are the really important part of this. This is what you're charging jobs. When a piece of equipment runs on a job or is charged to a job for an hour, what do you charge that job, right? This is kind of the base screen where you get the default, and there's a couple of different methods to do this on. That's why there's full charge versus operating and standby, and we can explain all these things if we get a chance to talk to you in more detail. And down below here we have the jobs where there's an override, right? So we charge $93.87 an hour full charge for operations. But when we use it on these particular jobs, we've decided to either charge more or less depending on how the bid was run and where the job is and that sort of stuff. So compliance is everything that has a expiration date, licenses, insurance, any of the stuff that you need to track to make sure you're legal for this piece of equipment. Components are engines, hydraulics, ground engaging tools, where you're interacting with our maintenance software to be able to track mean time to fail on engines and things like that, really to do 100% uptime, or at least attempt 100% uptime on your fleet by using an interactive maintenance tool and repair tool. The meters, we track 4 different meters on each piece of equipment. We do have a handheld app for fuelers. So that if you have a fuel truck that's driving around, or third party that are fueling, they can go to the App Store, download this particular app, and then enter the job they're on, the piece of equipment they're on, and the amount of fuel that they put in it and the hours, and that syncs automatically back into Spectrum. So you're gathering 2 of the pieces of information that are the hardest to get for most companies, which are the fuel back to the piece of equipment, right? The quantity of fuel back to the piece of equipment, and the hour and consistent hour meter readings on that equipment, so you can get utilization and you can drive maintenance efficiently. The PM setup is the different maintenance tasks that we track against this piece of equipment and where we're at on them, how often they occur, any parts that we need to do it, any instructions that we have. If I click on the instructions, this will show me the entire, you can cut and paste the entire manual for performing a specific task into a maintenance task, and then that will print on the piece of paper that you give to the mechanic when they're doing that maintenance.
So, Kurt, if I'm an equipment manager and if I have a dashboard set up, can I see those on my dashboard?
Absolutely. There's dashboard apps that will show you equipment with maintenance that's coming due. So, or at whatever tolerance you want to have. Show me every piece of equipment that has maintenance tasks that are 95% due or greater. We also have the schedule report in here that allows your shop guy to come in and print out every Monday all of the maintenance that's due or has come due in the last week, and distribute that across your mechanics to get it out. Specs, all of the rest of these things are kind of just different things to track. The real goal of the equipment system is in this summary here is to get you, is this piece of equipment worth owning, right? Well, you can look at this year to date, right? We have had $137 in costs. We haven't incurred any costs on this piece of equipment year to date. We've ran it for 200 hours, so we're making $89.21 an hour based on what we've charged out. That's not a very accurate representation, but equipment costs do come in big lumps. They're not a steady cost like a job cost system, right? Equipment, it'll go for a long time with no cost associated with it, and then all of a sudden it'll have a big cost associated with it. So over time, you get that information year to date, where we're looking at our total revenue, our total cost for this piece of equipment, how many total hours it's ran, and is this piece of equipment making us money or not. We have really good tools to help you figure out what those rates that you need to charge are, and also, so that way you can look at a class of equipment and find out whether it's if you're busting it on a particular class of equipment, right? You're undercharging. You can go in and look at individual pieces of equipment and find out whether it's one piece of equipment in there that's causing you problems, or whether your rate for the whole class is off. And there's tons of tools to help you analyze that stuff in Spectrum. The PM history here is just every maintenance task that's ever been performed on this piece of equipment and who did it, what the notes they were that they kept about it. We also have repair work orders in here where you can come in very easily and look at your work orders on a piece of equipment, enter new work orders for a piece of equipment, and see everything that track your repairs separate from your maintenance tasks, right? So we're going to try to wrap it up by like 10:50, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Running.
So we got another 8 minutes or so. I do want to hit on a few other pieces of the software. Primarily the materials management system. And what materials management in Spectrum is designed to do is to take scale tickets from whatever system you're using. We have written StreetSmarts integrations. We've got our own ticketing system, which is called Fastway and Spectrum Ticketing, which integrates in more closely than any other product. It also has a handheld piece for entering mobile tickets. You can track as many different plants or asphalt plants or pits, aggregate operations as you want to in the system. You can set the pricing by all of those. So we've looked very closely at how StreetSmarts manages its materials and and emulated that so that we think it's more functional than what you've got now. But it allows you to do the same base. You're not replacing StreetSmarts with a general contracting package that doesn't understand material ticketing. So the primary guts of this are you come in and if I've got any tickets in here, we'll see. You can import tickets into the software, and then when I run the import or the update up here, these are all tickets that have come in from different plants or one plant, and then they're either customer related, we're selling them outside to outside customers, or they're going to our own jobs in the software. You can have independent pricing on every item from every plant or pit based on customer or customer job and your own project. So it's very flexible in terms of what you're charging. We also handle freight reconciliation, the hauling reconciliation in here. So if on this ticket you've identified the hauler that you're using, it stores a copy. It first of all will either bill or job cost the hauling as soon as you update these, right? So and then when you get the invoice from the hauler, it will allow you to go in and reconcile that and drive to AP. So basically, it's already entered, it's already costed, and all you need to do is compare what's in the system versus what the hauler is sending you. If there's any differential between that, it allows you to reconcile that, and then it will fix job cost either direction depending on how that works. So and that's the same for outside materials. Really, if you don't have your own aggregate operations, or you can set up a plant for Vulcan, right? And then import the tickets or put the tickets into the system using one of many different ways. And then it'll job cost those immediately. The key is that you're not waiting for an invoice from Vulcan to get your cost to job cost. So just like we talked about with materials, with AP invoices that have come in the door and with labor that has been performed but hasn't been paid out yet, we do the same thing with materials. So if you're getting 100 tickets a day of rock coming from Vulcan, you can record those, put them in the software, drive them to job cost, and then when Vulcan sends you the invoice at the end of the month, again, just like with haulers, you can reconcile those tickets and drive that to AP and haul. And it's all in the system already, though, so you're not waiting. Your project managers aren't taking stuff out and spitting them into spreadsheets to figure out where they actually are on their costs, right? The whole goal is to get the people who are managing the job the ability and the information to make decisions based on what's actually happened, not what was 2 weeks ago with a bunch of imagination in the middle. So,
now, Kurt, I know a lot of companies operate, multiple plants, multiple pits,
yep,
and they operate them oftentimes as different enterprises, different entities. Can you touch a little bit about what you know?
Sure. So, it gets a little bit into the weeds, but Spectrum has some functionality that other packages don't have, which is called cost center. So in Spectrum, you can set up each individual material operation as a separate entity, essentially, a separate cost center. And then you can get balance sheet and income statement information from each one of those, but then report on them structurally, right, in whatever manner you want to, and roll them up into different entities. So it doesn't need to be, there's one overarching umbrella that all of your entities, all of the companies that you run live under, and then each one of those is sliced and diced internally, but it's not a separate company or database in the software so that you're having to set up new vendors, you're having to set up new employees, new customers every time you get a new material operation. You're able to fit it into your operation where it needs to go. We can talk, again, a lot more about that on the GL side, too. The final question that I see on the questions here is, can you import depreciation from Sage? And that's 100%. Yeah, absolutely, we can do that. So using that functionality we talked about early, and that if you're already using FAST, then I think it's the best. Frankly, keep using it. It's a good system, and we, we'll help you integrate that so that you don't have to have any custom software written or do anything special. We've done that many times with customers.
So I'll take care of the APIs. Right?
Yep. So that is, in a nutshell, a brief look at Spectrum. Like I said earlier, we'd love to have the opportunity to spend more time and talk about your specific business issues and answer questions that you'd like to have. And all you need to do is contact us for that, and we can get it done.
And Kurt, I think that was a great kind of 30,000-foot look at Spectrum, and kind of there's so many more things that we really could talk about, and really dig into the weeds with. Everything from dedicated workflows to getting into the weed of project management itself. So. Like Kurt said, we encourage you, if you have additional questions or would like to talk to any of our product specialists here, we'd love to have the conversation with you and let you know how we can kind of meet your needs and shape Spectrum to fit your needs.
Yep. Thank you for attending.
Thank you so much, folks. And with that, I know we're kind of close to our cutoff time here, so we're going to go ahead and close this out in just a few minutes.
We'll leave the meeting up, so if you have questions that you want to type in, feel free to do that, and we can answer them for you.
Absolutely. So we'll leave this up for about another 3-4 minutes or so, and then we'll close it out from there. So again, folks, thank you for taking the time out of your day and joining us. We do appreciate it. and have a great rest of your afternoon.